This show is part of the Head Stuff Podcast Network.
This episode of the G-Spot is sponsored by Playblue, Ireland's favourite adult store. Playblue.ie has a huge selection of adult toys as well as some deadly deals. There really is something for everyone, no matter what bits you have or what you're into. Check out playblue.ie today. So this week on the G-Spot, I'm joined by podcaster and YouTuber Keelin Moncrieff. So welcome, Keelin.
Thank you so much.
Have you talked about sex much on your own YouTube channel and podcasts, etc.? Has it come up?
I was very adamant on talking about it in a more generalised, not in an educational way, but more in just my own anecdotal experience to make people more comfortable in talking about it with their friends, but also like if you needed advice that people would feel comfortable to go to their parents.
Yeah.
Because I went to a all-girls Catholic school and we would be talking about it, but it would be more in a way like who's lost their virginity. It wouldn't be going into the details. I literally didn't even know what sex looked like or how I would perform. You know, what actually happens other than you could get pregnant. You know, the fears that are instilled in you.
Yeah.
So then once I actually had sex for the first time and I had a YouTube channel, I was like, there's so much stuff that I wish I knew when I was a teenager because I was big into watching YouTube. So I wanted to make these videos that I would have watched when I was a teenager to, number one, not scare me about sex and the things surrounding it, but also to not pressure me into having sex because there was a whole thing because of my curiosity. I think I was so excited to have sex so that I'd know what happened rather than wanting to enjoy it for myself.
Yes. Yeah.
And I wanted to know if it hurt. I wanted to know what actually happened. Yeah. I wanted to know the ins and outs and I wanted to experience it firsthand because all my point of references were probably just porn. And I knew that wasn't healthy and I felt uncomfortable looking at it and I knew it felt a bit weird inside me.
Yeah.
You know, just seeing them, especially because on mainstream porn, it was all just like usually exploitation and they're not focusing on pleasure of the woman or anything like
generally,
that.
Yeah. So is that how you kind of learned about sex initially then? Like, did you, most people answer the same way when I'm talking to an Irish guest, did you get much sex education in school? And if you didn't, where did you learn about sex then?
So there's two types of sex when I think about sex education.
Okay.
There would be like the clinical terms of sex, like penetration, penis and vagina, you will get pregnant, you know, sperm, egg, fertilization.
You will get pregnant.
Yeah, because I did biology in the Leaving Cert.
Yes, yeah.
So that's what I know about. That's sex where it's like in a clinical sense.
Reproduction. Really.
Reproduction, yeah. It's not actually to do with the act of sex, you know, love making, anything like that.
No.
And then in terms of pleasure, intimacy, everything like that was all through the internet. So initially, before anyone like creators were speaking about sex or pleasure or intimacy online, it would have been just from pornography or actually learning from the boyfriends that I was with.
Right. Yeah.
So asking them questions because they were the ones that were watching porn, not me.
Yeah.
Asking about pleasure. Like I didn't start masturbating or anything until I was 22.
Okay.
Because I think I was embarrassed, felt it like dirty or something, or felt ashamed of myself. I even felt ashamed of myself after having sex with my boyfriends.
Wow.
And then, you know, sitting down to have dinner with my parents and being like, they know.
Yeah.
They know
look different.
They know I've just enjoyed myself. I feel disgusting. And I don't know where that stems from because I only went to that Catholic school for 3 years. So it's not like they were shaming you very like overtly,
like actively shaming you.
Yeah.
But I think shame grows in the spaces where encouragement and education isn't. You know, it's actually in the absence of the good stuff that I think the shame grows, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to be actively told sex is bad. You just learn it, or it's shameful. You learn through so many indirect cultural ways.
Yes. I do remember one class, we had an SPHE class in third year, and I remember one teacher said that you only have sex to reproduce and not for pleasure. But I think she was playing a devil's advocate, and she was pregnant at the time. I think she was playing devil's advocate, and she wanted us to have a discussion about it. Okay. But obviously because we were all teenagers and didn't want to pipe up and be like, well, actually.
Yeah.
But I do remember being kind of confused about that conversation. But I do think she was just trying to get a reaction out of us, but she didn't get it.
Or did she want you Did she not want you to think that she had had sex for pleasure?
Yeah, maybe.
And then, you know, I just had sex to have this baby.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. Yeah. Yeah. And I think what you're describing is so common in that at school we learn, I mean, the basics of biology and reproduction. I would argue that even then there's a lot of information that should be there that's missing, like the clitoris isn't included in the diagrams and that, whereas it's a key part of pleasure, which actually prepares the body for sex. And, you know, there's so much, even within reproduction, you can still make references to pleasure, but we don't, right? So it's this really clinical how to make a baby. And then the way we learn about everything else, like consent, pleasure, intimacy, bodies, like you name it, is probably from the media. And as you said, maybe partners as well and peers.
Peers, maybe not so much. Like, I'm an older
Depends.
sister, so I didn't have an older sister to ask questions to. Now, I do have like a very naked family. We were known for, if my brother had friends over, my older brother, who's 6 years older, he'd have friends over and me and my sister would be running around the house naked. It was just like a thing. My parents were always naked. I knew where body hair grew. I knew what a penis and testicles looked like because my dad would be coming out doing the helicopter when he came out of the shower. It wasn't like a thing. We were never ashamed of our bodies.
That's great.
It was great. My mom always had armpit hair, leg hair, so I was never ashamed in that sense. But when I started growing, I was just like, because my peers were all talking about shaving and, you know, as if a 13-year-old's going to go get her gi out at the disco. Like, it was just crazy. I don't know why. We were like...
It starts so young, though, that conforming. Yeah.
But I remember my mom giving out to me, being like, you don't have to shave that off. Like, what makes you think that you have to do it? I need to do it, like the rest of the girls. And I was plucking my eyebrows when I was 10, you know, that sort of thing. So it definitely didn't come from my family life. I was very comfortable and I knew what was going to happen to me when I hit puberty and everything.
Brilliant.
Which was great.
Yeah.
So I think because of that, I had like so much drive to figure out more. And like, why do people feel so ashamed of, especially women, why do you feel ashamed of your body hair? That's like natural. Why is it seen as dirty or unhygienic? That makes absolutely no sense. And then why are we so ashamed to feel pleasure and like pleasure ourselves? Because that was what I was experiencing, because it didn't make sense to me that I was comfortable being in my naked body, but I couldn't like pleasure myself. Yeah. Do you know?
Oh, completely.
It's like two separate, things.
And I think you're just proving the point that sex ed, like, it's not just a class in school. Everyone has sex education, whether it's good or bad, or they've had it formally or not. We all literally just get educated about sex in direct and indirect ways. And it's multi-layered. Like, you came from a naked family, as you said, and there was no shame around the bodies themselves and body hair and whatnot. So obviously, you know, you learned or you picked up whatever shame from other sources, basically, that alone wasn't enough to kind of vaccinate you against shame, if that makes sense. Like, it's important. I mean, it's so important. It's great that you had that family environment, but it is multi-layered. There's other bits that come into it as well, isn't there? Like, other ways you learn. And porn is one of them. And porn, it's interesting because it comes up a lot, obviously, in my work. And like, the world of porn is enormous, and actually our first dilemma is about porn, so we're going to get onto that in a second. And like, there's good, there's bad, there's everything in between, and we could sit here all day and debate the ethics of porn and whatnot. But if we look at it from, say, a consumer point of view and young people learning from it, a lot of the mainstream free tube sites like your Pornhub or whatever, there's a very specific type of porn you're seeing. And like you said, women's pleasure wasn't really focused on as much, or it's just really unrealistic. Like, yes, they appear to be enjoying themselves, but it's not relating to real life experiences.
Also, the body thing. I remember watching porn for the first time, and these women were like carved by the gods. And then only realizing now, when, you know, in my 20s, when I see people come online and say, this is what I have had done to my body. There's like procedures that I didn't even know existed. You know, I knew about boob jobs and everything, but you can get sculpted BBLs, you know, your face chiseled. And that's what I was seeing in porn. And I was going, how do I expect my partner to see me as sexy if this is what he's watching to pleasure himself and I'm not around?
Yeah, and it's kind of that self-objectification effect, you know, when we see women being objectified and seen in a very narrow way of, you know, to be a woman and to be desirable, you have to have, say, this body or look this way. If we're exposed to that enough, even if we don't agree with it, it's still, we can start turning it on ourselves. It becomes almost automatic where, like you're saying, you're looking at yourself and like, sure, how can he see me as sexy? Because I don't look like that. Very, very narrow body ideas. As well, like the genitals on porn, that's something that comes up, like the vulvas and the labias. Again, we're talking mainly about the mainstream stuff because there is more diverse, more ethically produced porn out there. But the stuff a lot of us would have seen growing up, like were these perfect, hair-free, really neat kind of labias. And they probably were having surgeries even at that point. Like
definitely.
labiaplasties and stuff.
Definitely. Because I know now, I've seen ethical porn now.
Yeah.
That was fantastic revelation for me in my older years. And I wish that I was able to see that. It was like a representation of more normal bodies, people like me, people different than me, with body hair and everything. But it's just that I was exposed, the first thing that I was exposed to was this unrealistic, actually, it was like almost an animation because it's not real. But to me, I was thinking, oh my God, this is what sex is supposed to be.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it right.
Oh, yeah. And that's probably going to get even more, my grammar, more worse, I was about to say. That's probably going to get worse because I've come across some AI, not pornographic, but just like AI videos. Like I came across a reel last night of Kylie Jenner speaking German. And I was like, does Kylie Jenner speak German? Like it was so realistic. It was just like her face. They'd just taken an interview and they had her obviously dubbed over speaking German. And then all the comments were like, AI is fucking scary. And I was like, of course, in my work, I'm relating it to sex and everything. I'm like, oh my God, how is that going to play out in porn? Like it's going to become maybe even more unrealistic in a way because it's not just your surgeries and your lighting and your angles. It's probably going to be actual, they might already be doing this. I might be behind the times. But, you know, now they might be using actual technology to even make people's bodies look more, I don't want to say insane because like they're real people with real bodies, but you know what I mean, like more like perfection, like unrealistic.
Yeah, unrealistic. Yeah, it's unattainable.
Yeah, so, you know, when we learn that stuff in porn, we have to do a lot of unlearning then, don't we? Like when we're trying to have a healthy sexual relationship with ourselves and our partners. So speaking of that, we can get into our first dilemma, which is about porn, actually. Okay, first dilemma. Hi, I'm a 28-year-old woman and I'm feeling a bit stuck in my relationship. Lately, I've noticed that my partner has been watching a lot of porn and it's making me feel really insecure. It's not subtle. Sometimes I can hear it through his headphones beside me in bed and he has asked to watch it with me a few times now and I've always said no. The thought of it just makes me squirm and not in a good way. I know porn is a normal part of many couples' lives, but I can't shake this feeling of inadequacy whenever I think about it. I worry that my partner prefers the fantasy of porn over being intimate with me or that he's comparing me to the women he is getting off to on screen. I'm just too uncomfortable to bring it up with my partner. I feel like I'll sound insecure and childish. And he might feel judged and ashamed. But at the same time, I know we need to talk. I just wish he wouldn't be so obsessed with it. Is this a reasonable request, do you think? Okay. So straight away, I'm like, if I can hear anything through anyone's headphones in bed, I'm allergic. I don't care what it is. Shut up.
Allergic reaction. I have a rash thinking about it.
I'm like, no.
That's horrible.
Yeah. Is that intentional? Like,
that's invasive. It's actually almost like it's inappropriate.
It kind
to
of
do
is.
That.
Yeah. I'm wondering, is he doing that on purpose? Is he even aware? Because I don't know which is the better answer. If he's doing it on purpose so she can hear it, is that a weird power move? I don't know. Or if he doesn't even realise, I'm like, have you that little awareness of your partner's presence right next to you almost?
Yeah.
Okay, so initial reactions, thoughts, gut reactions to that.
I think that to me sounds like an addiction. It sounds like an impulse that he can't control. Or I'm presuming it's a he, is it?
I think so, yeah.
I think there's something that's a problem there. Because if you can't control how you're consuming media next to your partner, like that's there's no boundaries
behind
there.
That. Yeah.
I definitely have that is definitely a reasonable request to lay it off. If it's impacting your relationship and your intimacy, I just think it's not worth it.
Yeah.
To me, I would say get in the bin. Put that in the bin.
So how do you navigate it though? Because like if she turns around, what is her request? Her request is basically, I just wish he wouldn't be so obsessed with it. As in, stop listening to it next to me. Like there needs to be boundaries, I suppose, around it. Now, if he genuinely is struggling with like compulsive sexual behavior, so compulsive use of porn, like he obviously has to get help for that. But if it's a thing where, you know, a lot of people watch porn, it doesn't have to take over your relationship or your sex lives. So it sounds to me just like a lack of boundaries with it. And what could she ask to make that situation a bit better? So obviously starting off with, could you stop listening to it beside me in the bed? You know, it sounds like she really doesn't have an interest. The thought of it just makes me squirm, and not in a good way. So there's feelings of inadequacy coming up for her.
And the type of porn that he's consuming probably does matter there as well. If it is like genetically modified women made in a test tube.
I know, because look, we can all say, you know, porn isn't realistic. We shouldn't compare ourselves, and that is all correct. But when it's in your bedroom and in your life, and we all have insecurities, and if it is bringing up insecurity for her, like that's difficult. Do you know, that's hard, and I don't think he's picking up on that. Like she doesn't want to. She said, "I'm just too uncomfortable to bring it up with my partner." You just have to.
Yeah, definitely. I would usually, this is what I do. It's actually a parenting tip.
Okay.
You have to talk to men like toddlers. So first of all, it actually works. It works like a charm. So you have to say, I'm having a problem with this. You don't go in straight away with, you should stop this.
Of course, yeah.
So you can say, I'm having difficulties with our intimate relationships, and I want to feel closer to you. I want to improve our sex life. He's going to be going ding, ding, ding.
Yeah.
I've hit a winner here. I would love to be having more sex with you.
Yeah.
You can already tell immediately. So you could say, I would like to improve our sex life. I do think that the porn is getting in between us. Could you be able to cut it down a little bit more and work on me? This is what I'd like to do. Tell me about your fantasies and I'll tell you about mine. Because then it's not a fight. It's more like, I want to feel closer to you, and this is what the problem is for me. And then you can start with the educating of the why ethical porn is better.
Yeah, of course. Maybe that's what he's watching. But
I was in a relationship with a guy. Now I was in my early 20s here, and it was kind of my introduction to ethical porn, and I was figuring out why mainstream porn was kind of damaging to people's perceptions of reality, especially for men, because it does influence. It's like, you know, if they're playing violent video games and it's like violence is okay or whatever, and then if you're watching these videos of women who may be being exploited, you don't know that. If you're seeing women with like unattainable body types, and it's like normalizing that then for you, and then playing out a scene in porn where it's only the man getting pleasured, or it could be slightly non-consensual. There's it's not realistic. That does have an impact on the behavior of men. Right. I would definitely say. So if you say this to your partner and just explain it, that's what I did anyway with my ex. I was just like, and then he just cut it out completely, and our sex life was so much better.
Okay,
for it.
Great. That's brilliant. That's a good response.
Yeah.
What if the partner is like, I know, but porn's normal. Like, I need to watch my bit of porn.
Yeah, we can ethical porn. Hello.
Yeah, and also again, boundaries. So like with me, right, and porn and how I would navigate in my relationship, I am like, I kind of assume all my partners probably watched porn. Maybe that's a false assumption, but like we know percentage wise, a lot of people do. It is mostly men, but there's also a huge percentage of women that do as well. So, I kind of assume, they probably look at stuff. But for me, it's like, I don't actually want to know about it. Like, as in, go and watch it.
Okay.
I don't really care, but I don't really want to know about it either. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if someone was watching it next to me now, I'd be like, absolutely not having that. It just wouldn't do anything for me. Some people could find that a turn on, but I would be like, no, like that's for you. That like you enjoy that.
Time.
Like I have my own fantasies. I listen to audio erotica. We all have our own, you know, our toys, our masturbation, whatever it is.
Yeah.
That's my approach is, you know, like do your thing, but I don't need to know about all of it, certainly. And also I need to feel confident that it's not impacting our sex life. And thankfully, like I don't feel that way in my relationship. Like, you know what I mean? I don't feel, you know, the way sometimes, like there's people I've been with where I'm like, you're getting this from porn. There's nowhere else you could be getting this.
There was a guy who I had sex with, and he actually had turned it on an American accent when we had sex. That was obviously from porn.
Oh my
like,
God,
there's no fucking...
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? He was from South Dublin.
Yeah.
It was crazy. It was like turned on. He was like, it's time to be American. It was, yeah. And it just made me feel uncomfortable. It's like, I want to be having sex with you, not a character you've created in your head.
Yeah.
Like your fantasy when you watch porn.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Or do you know something I noticed with a partner before where he would just look at he would look at me from the neck down. He'd never look at my face. Like he would just be looking at my body. And he'd be like, your body looks so good. This looks so good. That looks so good. I'm like, okay, it was a casual thing. So I was like, I don't need us to be like, telling each other we love each other and like whatever. But like at the same time, like I'm not a sex doll. Like, I have a face. Which I think is okay to look at. I'm like, you know what I mean? I felt that was a bit... I just remember that particular experience. I didn't realise till afterwards what was off about that encounter. I was like, yeah, he didn't look at me, but he was like openly looking everywhere else.
Yeah.
And I just always wondered, did that come from porn? And I've had some experiences where, just people will say things and they're really porny. And it's fine if you've okayed it beforehand. Like if you like being called a name or told a certain thing, absolutely go for it. But it's when they automatically assume you want to be called names or you want, it's just porn speak. I'm like, could we just check do I actually like that, and vice versa? There's different things I think you can pick up on that you're like, where are you getting that from? Where did that come from?
I'm not against watching porn with my partners.
Oh yeah,
I'd be big into that.
Okay, good.
It's more like it's an anniversary thing. I'm paying. I get to pick it out. But with porn, I do feel uncomfortable if my partner is watching like mainstream, particularly.
Yeah.
It's like, I want to know what you're watching, because I think it's like letting your kid, I'm going back to the toddler thing. It's like letting your kid run wild with TikTok and like not watching what they're looking at. It's like the algorithms and everything. I just do think it's such dangerous territory.
It can be, I think.
What's on there.
Yeah.
It's just horrific. I actually am. It has affected me so much going on myself as a young teenager.
Okay. Yeah,
that I don't want my partners anywhere near that. I don't want you getting off on stuff like that. It's not that every single thing that's on mainstream porn is bad, but like a large majority of it is. A large majority of the women aren't getting paid properly. They're not getting looked after. Like the stuff that I've heard and seen like is not good. So I would just prefer my partner to be watching stuff that's realistic, and also that the men and women involved are getting paid properly. Yeah.
Oh, well, definitely the
consenting.
ethical parts of it. Absolutely. On the point of the sex workers and performers. For me, I think I want to be with someone who I am, thankfully, but I would want to be with someone, even with this person, who I trust enough to, even if they're watching like unrealistic stuff, let's call it, that they are old enough and bold enough and educated enough to know that this is just a fantasy that they're watching. Yeah. Because I don't think porn, I think it's great that we have more realistic porn. I don't think it all needs to be realistic, because at the end of the day, it's entertainment. So, you know what I mean? There are parts of it that are just going to be fantastical and unrealistic. But that's a whole spectrum of unrealistic, right? Yeah. Like, when you go to the cinema and you watch a film, like you don't see the directors caught in the behind the scenes. You just watch the film. Yeah. But it's just a film. You don't come out thinking you can fucking fly or whatever's happening in the film, shoot webs, whatever, right? Yeah. So with porn, it's like I need to be able to trust that my partner, even if he is looking at stuff, that he knows that this is just something that like he gets off to now and then, and it's not something he needs to replicate, or you know what I mean, wants to. That's where I would stand on it. But to ascertain that, I need to be able to have a discussion. Like I need to be able to talk about it. And that's something with this person, I'm like, coming back to them, you have to talk about it. It doesn't matter if you're uncomfortable, just get uncomfortable. And I always say that. Like some of the conversations you need to have the most are the uncomfortable ones. Yeah. And, she's afraid of being seen as insecure. That's okay. Like it's okay to tell your partner you're insecure or you have insecurities. Yeah. Like that vulnerability you're gonna have a better conversation based off
You'll feel closer.
Yeah.
And then he might start opening up too.
Yeah. Because I'm thinking if I was in this situation, sometimes what people can do is they react. So they're feeling insecurity, but they come from this really reactive shaming place where they might be like, you're watching porn, it's disgusting, kind of shame on you kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that's not getting to the heart of the issue at all. And they're probably still going to watch it. They're just...
And it'll start a fight. There's no reason to fight. It's not, I don't think this is worth a fight between each other.
It's how we approach it.
Because he doesn't even know that you're uncomfortable with it. So how could he behave in a different way then?
Yeah.
Or expect him to behave in a different way?
Yeah. I think work for that one, work to be done maybe a little bit individually around, because she's automatically going to, I worry he'll prefer the fantasy of porn. I worry he's comparing me to them. I'm wondering, is there anything else happening in the relationship that's leading her to think that as well? Like, is she actually feeling safe and wanted and seen and appreciated in the relationship in general? There might be some other stuff there. But also then on a couple's level, there has to be communication, boundaries. And discussion, signpost him to some ethical bits. And if you're not comfortable watching it, don't watch it with him. You can try it. And if you don't like it, don't do it. Or maybe you could try even listening to it first without watching it and see, is that any different? Like play around a bit with, maybe there are parts that you might actually enjoy. And once you get past that fear of, oh God, he's comparing me. And maybe they could get to a place where, oh no, he's not comparing me, it's fine. We can watch something together or listen to something. But it's okay if you don't want to.
Listeners, if there is a penis out there that you like, you should put a ring on it. I think that's what Beyonce said. Or maybe she was talking about a diamond ring. Anyway, I am talking about the kind of ring that is going to bring lots and lots and lots of pleasure your way. When it comes to choosing sex toys, I always encourage people, think about the way you usually have sex and then just slip a toy into that experience. And a fab way to do this is by using a vibrating ring. It can go around a penis or some toys that are similar in shape. And as well as adding that all-important clitoral stimulation, it can also slow blood flow to the penis and so make things last a little or a lot longer. And of course, if you're wrapping a toy around your precious piece, you want to make sure it's from a brand you can trust. The vibrating ring from Satisfyer, called Royal One, is great quality, great value. It looks sleek and stunning and can even be controlled using an app. Get yours or anything else that takes your fancy at 10% off with the code GRACE10 on playblue.ie. Enjoy!
This show is part of Headstuff Podcasts. Here's another show you might like.
Sissy That Pod is a podcast all about RuPaul's Drag Race, and we are going to be covering the latest season of RuPaul's Drag Race UK, which will be airing really, really soon. So if you are a RuPaul's Drag Race fan, make sure that you are subscribed ahead of the season, because we'll be leaving no rhinestone unturned in our coverage. We're going to have some sickening guests, and we'll be getting into every nook and cranny of the conversation. That's Sissy That Pod, wherever you get your podcasts, and on Headstuff Plus.
Okay, second dilemma. So this is a little bit longer. I'm a 30-year-old woman from Dublin and a newly single mum to two lovely young children, ages 2 and 4. My children's dad and I split up earlier this year because I found out about multiple one-night stands he had had during our relationship, including when I was pregnant.
Oh my God.
So as you can imagine, it was a horrific breakup and such a betrayal. I absolutely did not expect to find myself single with 2 young kids. Being a mum is amazing, but it's left me with hardly any time to focus on myself. I've developed some insecurities about my body over the years, stretch marks, a bit of extra weight, my boobs look very different, and just the general changes that can come with motherhood. I really miss being sexual and having that intimate connection with someone, but I'm terrified of being judged for my body. I used to love sex and be very sexual, but it seems like a lifetime ago now since everything happened with my ex. I'm also worried that anyone I date might not understand the demands of being a single mum. The idea of bringing someone new into my kids' lives is daunting. I want to make sure they're protected and that any new relationship doesn't have any negative effects on them. How do I overcome these insecurities and fears about dating again? How can I build up the confidence to be intimate with someone new? There's loads of questions here. Yeah. And how do I navigate the challenges of being a single mum in the dating world? Okay, there's a few parts to this.
Yeah.
So, first of all, the ex is
a cheating bastard.
An absolute weapon. Yeah, like get in the bin. But this happens, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Like it happens. You read about it all the time. Okay. So I feel like there's 3 things going on. I suppose she's probably highlighted them in her question. So there's the body image concerns that have developed since becoming a mum. There's the kind of worry about dating someone I suppose as a single mom and the realities of that, and will people understand, or whatnot, which I hear a lot as well. And I think the third one is just a general, probably huge confidence knock from what happened with her ex, because that's horrendous.
I do think it's going to take a while to realise that there are good men out there.
Yeah.
That's a huge thing once going through a breakup with someone who you had a child with and they could have done the worst thing possible to you. It's going to take a long time to realise there are good people out there that actually will want to look after you and not cheat. Not everyone is going to be like that. He is like a small percentage of men out there, unfortunately, that do exist. But she's definitely going to find someone eventually, not immediately. And I think that's the rush, because men can just, and what it's so frustrating about it, my granny and granddad split up. He got with a younger woman. My parents split up. My dad remarried. And it's so frustrating to watch that men can just move on with their lives with no problem. And then women are left with the responsibility of looking after everyone and being assumed that they'll stay single forever. Otherwise, they're selfish because they're putting themselves first above their children. It's just expected of women to, be the brave one and stay alone for their children and protect them, whereas men do not give that a second thought. Like, they're not thinking of, oh, how will this affect my children if I bring in this woman into their life, or how will this affect my children if I'm not spending as much time with them, if I'm going on dates to meet new people, how will this affect my children if I'm going on holidays or if I'm starting a new family. Men are not thinking about this. And we do have to remind ourselves, and this woman has to give herself a pat on the back, because she is taking on the whole responsibility of her family, and her children will respect her more for it when they grow up and they realise what she's gone through. But I also like to remind her there's no rush, and I know it's difficult to want to feel loved again and want to feel like you want to be intimate with another person again, but it does take a lot longer, with the added layer of your children, keeping your children in mind, in finding someone, because it is, if you want to have a lifelong partner, they have to be open with wanting to have the responsibility of children, obviously. Now, my own experience, I can only look at my mom's, because she was dating now when she had 4 children, and this was only like a few years after my parents split up. But when I was dating, I only started dating probably like 8 months after I split up. I went on one date, and the only reason why it didn't go any further, because I was like, this guy is not, it was just like my child didn't even exist on this date, it was sort of that buzz. And I was just like, this can't go any further. But it also, I'm grateful for it, because it makes me see red flags so much easier. I think beforehand I was a bit like, I know my worth, but sometimes I go on sale, is what I like to say. I'm on discount. Whereas like now when I have a baby,
I love that. I go on sale.
Yeah, like sometimes you do be going on sale, but once you have kids, you think that because you're like, oh, I feel real desperate now, and no man's ever going to want to love me because of all this. I'm a burden, because I come with I'm a package, or all this. Sorry, baggage. That's what the word I'm looking for. Yeah, with all this baggage. Whereas like it actually will point you in the direction of someone who is so much better than your previous partner, and someone who you would have gone with before you ever had children. It's like children open up the world to you in seeing all the positives in people and what you actually want in life. So I will say that is actually a good thing, but it does take a little bit longer. But you 100%, you're 30, like you are literally fun, sexy and thriving. You're in your prime.
30, yeah.
You are in your prime.
So much time.
You have so much time. Like 30 is still so young. Like my friends who are 30 and still single, and it's not a thing. Like my friends who are 30 and single are not going, oh my God, I need to find someone. It's only because I suppose you have children, you feel probably much further along in life. I know when I was single and had a child, I was going, oh my God, I'm going to be fucking single forever. Like that's obviously not true. No. I'm only 26, Well, me and my ex are actually back together now. But he's not a cheating bastard. But anyway, we can go further into detail later in the podcast. But anyway, but you're definitely, like there are men out there that aren't expecting this like skinny supermodel thing idea that we have in our head of like this perfect woman. Men do find it sexy that you can reproduce. I promise you there are men out there that are going, oh my God, you literally birthed 2 children. That's so hot. Or like don't care about stretch marks, don't care about what your boobs like. They just love you for the person you are in the inside, and that's what turns them on. And that's again why I'm so annoyed at porn, is because it just focuses on like the image of a person and what turns you on, whereas actually when you're in an intimate relationship with someone, what turns people on is like knowing more about a person. You know, things that bring you closer is like the hard stuff and, you know, the mundane activities like hanging up the laundry and stuff. Do you know, especially if you're in a long-term relationship. I know it's just hard at the start if you're single and you're going, oh my God, people are only judging me off the basis of my looks and my appearance, and that's what they're initially going to be attracted to. But once you've like built up on a relationship with someone, they don't. It's like less and less important. The appearance, the aesthetic, the image, like it's less and less important.
Absolutely.
Once you start to know a person, so 100% you are going to fall in love again, and that fucker is going to come crawling back.
Probably.
In a few years'
Good luck
time
to him.
when he's bald and like, you know, can't get anyone else and he's cheating on his next partner. Sorry, I'm actually going in on him.
It's probably, I mean, if he cheated on her multiple times, that sounds like, you know, people make stupid one-off mistakes sometimes and it is horrendous, but like that sounds like a pattern.
Oh yeah,
like that
definitely.
sounds like that's his character, that's what he's stuck in, that's what he's doing. And I feel like probably as well some of the body insecurities, I don't think it's even just from childbirth or growing children. I think it's probably the double whammy of him having cheated as well, because that's gonna, women, and this has come up in a few of my episodes, kind of a common theme, we're so quick to turn it back on ourselves. We are so quick to blame ourselves. So if a man can't get an erection, or if he can't orgasm, or if he doesn't want to have sex as often, or if he cheats on us, it's, is he gay? Or am I just hideous? Or it's this kind of, I'm not good enough straight away.
Yeah.
Rather than be like, oh, that's about him. That's something going on with him. It's not you.
Yeah.
Do you know? So many good points that you raised there. I totally agree. I think she will find, and as cliche as it is, it's cliche for a reason, the right person. And that's not like, oh, the one or the soulmate. It's just the person that's going to be right for you in your life. And your kids are part of that now.
Yeah.
And as you said, some men, actually, it adds like, I don't want to say value, that sounds awful, but it actually makes you more attractive that you have children, as you said. I believe in some cultures particularly, there's a whole thing about if you've had a child, it's actually even seen as actually sexy. What I'm wondering about is, do you know when she's like, oh, I used to love sex, and there's a lot of mentions of sex in it. It's not just about finding a relationship here. That's what I'm getting.
Okay.
You know, I used to love sex and be very sexual, but it seems like a lifetime ago. And we talked about that on your pod, on Mother, about how we can be desexualized in one way as mothers, because God forbid you're a mother and want to have sex and have orgasms and like have casual sex. And then on the other hand, there's this whole MILF kind of culture as well. But that's only, you know, going back to porn, if you look up a MILF category, probably most of them don't have kids at all.
Yeah.
It's nothing to do with them actually having kids. It's probably just a woman of a certain age who gives off a certain energy, right? So do you think there's more taboo or less taboo, because I don't know, around if you are a single mom and you want to date versus you want to just have casual sex?
Yeah.
Do you think it's probably taboo in both? But I'm guessing it's probably a bit more taboo even than on the casual sex stuff. Because do people think, oh, but you should be trying to find a partner for a steady long-term partner to fill in for your ex, you know, to be there for your kids, whereas she might just want to have sex.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't even think of that. Like, that's actually my own prejudice, because I wouldn't even register that's what she'd be looking for.
Yeah, well, I don't know, but
Yeah.
I'm just wondering. It's kind of unconscious bias. We go to where, you know,
Exactly,
obviously our own stuff. But do you think there is a stigma there around, say, a mother who'd want just casual sex?
I think it's falling away.
I hope so.
I don't think it's as taboo as maybe it would have been. Mm-hmm. I mean, if my mum was having casual sex, I would give her a high five.
Yeah,
do you know?
happy days. Yeah,
And I don't think anyone would have a negative reaction towards that.
yeah. I think people do.
Do you?
I do. Not in my little bubbles.
Yeah. See, our bubbles would be
And your
different.
naked family.
Yeah.
No, when you step outside, I do. I remember, I hope I'm not repeating myself, and I told this anecdote already, but I remember when I was doing a lot of work in schools for years, and you hear a lot of stuff in staff rooms. There's something about staff rooms that's a whole other episode.
Yeah, my friend's a teacher, and she told me that she was like, "If you ever heard staff room,
Oh
you die."
no,
Yeah.
just like, it's like a comment section. It's like, oh, this is where, you know, humanity is just dying off with the things that are being said, just horrible. Obviously not everyone, but you just hear stuff and you're like, whoa. It's like almost some hashtag not all teachers. Some teachers are nearly stuck in that teenage role almost, because they're back in that school environment and they say, I don't know, they're just, I don't know. Anyway, I don't want to get messages from teachers. I appreciate everything teachers do. But in a staff room before, do you remember, I think it was a year or two ago, and Una Healy from the Saturdays was supposedly in some kind of throuple.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I don't know what the story was.
Why was that even a headline?
But that's
that was
it.
crazy.
I don't know, and I don't really care. I was like, oh, fair play to her if she is. And there was this picture of her on the beach with this, I think, gorgeous couple and whatever, and everyone, I think, just assumed they were all having sex or in a relationship. And I overheard, someone brought it up in a staff room, and I was just visiting, and one of the women in the staff room said, she just turned around and like just the venom in her voice, like, what kind of a mother would want to be away from her kids at Christmas? Because apparently when this picture was taken, I suppose it was somewhere lovely, sandy, beachy, beautiful. It wasn't in, like Hoth or wherever. It was somewhere, abroad. Maybe at Christmas time, I don't know. And I was just kind of there like, like you wouldn't say that as quickly about a father. Like,
no.
Of those kids.
It's
like,
the
the
same
mom
with
has them for Christmas.
The Julia Fox and Kanye West thing.
Yeah.
I got a comment about that on my TikTok.
Yeah.
Saying, why am I supporting Julia Fox? Because she left her son to go gallivanting with Kanye West. Kanye West has 4 children.
4 children.
So why aren't we shaming him about that? It makes no sense. If the child is safe and looked after, it's no one else's business.
Yeah.
That's what I don't
100%.
understand.
Yeah. And for me, it was like, say, even with the Una Healy, I think it might have been your podcast I had touched on that. I can't remember. I just hope I'm not repeating myself. But like, even with that, I don't think that was even about a mom being away from her kids at Christmas, which, number one, just stop judging mothers for everything. The Christmas isn't the big deal for everyone that it is for some people. And if you're there all year round and you're just not there one Christmas, they're with their dad, so what? Like, that's a personal decision, right? But anyway, I think it was more about that, like, she was like looking fabulous and with this couple and potentially doing something that was outside the norm and that was maybe seen as sexually taboo or exciting. I think that's where the undercurrent of the judgment was coming from.
Yeah.
So all that to say, I do think there is judgment of just women who are maybe single moms or moms and they actually just want to explore that sexual side of things. They don't necessarily want a partner. Like, I know people who have children who, like, they're like, no, I'm very much I'm not looking for a relationship. My relationship ending is going to take a long time to get over.
Yeah.
I just want to have sex. Like, why is that seen as such a question of your parenting skills?
No, you're so right. I wouldn't even have thought of that myself as an option when I was single.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that was...
Why? Yeah. I wonder, like, why isn't that an option? Like, there might be valid reasons for some people. Casual sex isn't for everyone.
I was probably the fact that I was living with my parents as well.
Well, that'll do it.
The housing crisis, like, people are having sex in their cars,
Oh, 100%. But yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Like, if you were always, as she said, very sexual and you still love sex, like, that's probably not just going to, like, disappear. If that's part of you and part of who you are.
Yeah.
When you become a mother, you don't suddenly become, like, a Virgin Mary. Like, that doesn't even make sense because but you know what I mean?
How did the kids get here in the first place?
I know, but like, and I know we talked about this on your podcast that like just these complete kind of double standards of just impossible standards that women are held to where, it probably does come from the Immaculate Conception in a way because it's just like, how can we ever live up to that?
Yeah.
Because we have to do the dirty sex things to have children. But then, yeah, God forbid you actually want to have sex as an adult human who happens to have children. Like,
I know.
Yeah, I do still think there is taboo there in general society.
Yeah.
If not in our little bubbles, as I said. Because you can be in a bubble sometimes, can't you? And you step outside and you hear something, you're like, oh, whoa.
I know, I barely talk to anyone.
Yeah.
I talk to like 3 people every day. And then I'm going, whoa, people have different opinions.
I know.
It's crazy.
But it's like even with the body hair thing, like I just feel it's 2024. Like surely everyone's on the same page, like your body, your choice. Like grow body hair or don't, but just like make it your decision and whatever. But then you hear people and they're still talking about body hair as if you have like, leprosy growing on you. And it's like, oh, are we still there? It just disarms me sometimes because it'll be at a wedding or something where I don't, it's small talk and you just hear stuff and you're like, oh my God, I just thought we'd all moved on.
Yeah, I know.
So to answer, like, how do I overcome these insecurities about fears in dating again? How can I build up the confidence to be intimate? So there's a lot of questions there, but I think basically, as you said, taking your time, it's not a rush. If it is you're looking to date, it is going to take time. Your ex, I don't use this word lightly, but like what happened with your ex could possibly be described as traumatic.
Oh,
if
definitely.
you found it traumatic.
Yeah.
That is horrendous. Being cheated on is bad enough, but like when you have young kids and you were pregnant at the time, like that could really knock your confidence. So I think just taking some time to work on building yourself back up, realizing it wasn't about you, it wasn't something you weren't doing right or whatever. That's all about him. Children, as you kind of said, could be a great filter for actually filtering out the dickheads or people who aren't right for you. And yeah, just kind of, I suppose, even the practical thing of, though, if you've really young children, how do you go out and have casual sex? You have to get the babysitter, you have to get childcare.
Well, is he taking them on the weekends? If you're co-parenting, that's the good thing about co-parenting is if when they're gone for the weekend, you have 3 days to do whatever the fuck you want. So you can take yourself on dates, buy yourself new lingerie. I was buying myself new bras because after you have a baby, your boobs size changes. I got myself fitted 3 times in 1 year because my boobs were changing so much.
Wow.
I was getting myself lovely lacy bras, taking myself out to dinner, getting myself new books, spending time with myself. It really, really helps.
Oh, lovely,
because sometimes if you go into dating too soon as well, or even casual sex too soon, you realise that, you're not ready. It can upset you more.
Yeah.
Bring back those negative feelings and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's that's the only talk from my own experience. I know everyone else is different. But yeah, to just make sure that you're really, really ready and building up the relationship you have with yourself again, your sexual self and like your own body.
Yeah.
Because the relationship you have with your body changes so much after you have children because you just see yourself as sort of a vessel for kids and you don't see yourself as a sexual being or someone who can be desired. It's all just like, especially if you're breastfeeding, you're just feeding your kids, you're cuddling your kids, you're getting touched all the time by kids, but not in a romantic way. So it can be difficult to go back to that. So having bubble baths, touching yourself.
I was about to say, even toys, stuff like that, that brings like masturbation or self-touch or self-pleasure so that you can kind of start making that slow transition into feeling sexual again. Because it's that you can, and especially, say you're breastfeeding and your body is nearly needed for your children to survive. So trying to shift the view from, yes, it can do all of these things for my lovely children and do incredible things, but it can also be there just for me as well at times, for those 3 days or whatever it is, and for pleasure. And that could help maybe in tapping into that side of herself again. So yeah, no pun intended, but baby steps, bit by bit. And yeah, look, it is early days, so like, you've been through a lot. Be patient with yourself. It will happen.
Yeah.
She'll find either someone casual who's lovely and respectful that she can have fun with, or maybe find her next love and who'll be delighted to, like, I don't mean literally adopting, but taking on these children.
Yeah.
So yeah. Okay, well, hopefully we've helped that person. That was great, Keelin. Thank you so much. And for all your personal insights as well. I think that really helps, because we're not here to literally give prescriptive advice, and it really helps when people can share a bit of what they've been through as well. I think that connects with people more than anything.
Yeah. It's hard to give advice about the single mom thing because I had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah.
I was just actually just going day by day.
But sure, most people probably don't, I imagine.
Yeah, no,
they
it's
probably
like
all feel like
a
that.
minefield.
Yeah.
I was asking my mom and she was just going, fuck the men, fuck them. And that's not helpful to anyone.
I know, that's from the energy you're in though. Okay, great. Do you want to finish off by just mentioning your bits and pieces where people can find you and connect with you, basically?
So I have the Mother podcast. Actually, that single mom might want to listen to that.
Yeah, actually, really good shout. Yeah.
That would be brilliant. And I have my own podcast, Growing Up with Keelin Moncrieff, where I interview creatives. That one's a bit of a laugh, lighthearted. And my handles are all KEE_MON.
Yes.
Fabulous.
It's nice and neat and succinct. I love it. And you're going to Australia soon, aren't you?
Yes. My best friend's in Australia, so I wanted an excuse to go over.
Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah.
And it's going to be sunny there when I go, so I'm prolonging because we haven't had a summer here. It's been pathetic.
We haven't.
No,
it's so weird.
I want a refund.
It's just warm and raining most of the time and then windy. Anyway, we know the crack with Ireland. Because you're doing the book swap. You do book swap socials, is that what they're called? Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
That's great. Okay, well, thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Thanks for having me on.
A huge thank you to Playblue, Ireland's favourite adult store, for sponsoring this episode of the G-Spot. You can browse through their impressive selection of toys, lingerie and lots more sexy essentials at playblue.ie.
This show is part of the Headstuff Podcast Network, a hub for the creative and the curious. Shows are produced in association with Headstuff and the Podcast Studios Dublin. Find out more or become a member at headstuffpodcasts.com.